Hey, what's going on, y'all? This is Dylan with Dylan Talks Tone, and we're going to talk a little bit, something a little different. We do guitar tone, guitar tech, we do all this kind of stuff on this channel. We have like 450 videos. If you're new here, if you were just meeting for the first time, do me a favor and hit that button, the subscribe button, and then go back and watch some of those videos that'll really help you get your guitar set up. And, we got all kinds of guitar nerdery that we talk about here. But once you have your guitar where you want it, you want to record the end result of all of this, in my opinion, should not be like the gear itself, but should be the creating of music and then being able to share that, right? So let's talk about how to do that. Let's talk about how to get from the guitar to your computer, for example, because that's the recording medium of choice these days, right? For most people. When we think about this, we think about it, it could be very complicated. So you look at this here, right? We got the mixing board, we got monitors, and we got a computer, and we got the Kemper over here in the background. Can you see it? Right, so we've got all that stuff, and you're like, whoa, that's too much to bite off. It's too much to deal with. But what I want to talk about today is this is probably the most complicated setup that I've ever had. What we want to be able to do is we want to be able to have an idea in our head. We're playing the guitar on the couch and we're like, I have to save this. I want to record this. And we just run in there and we hit record and we just go, right? Like that's the goal. We want to be able to do that. So here's the deal. This is how we can do this. All this stuff that we have here basically boils down to the same three components, even though you see a bunch of knobs and buttons and fancy stuff. It really boils down to the same three components that it's always boiled down to since the beginning of time. The guitar amp as a sound source, a interface to make that into an electronic signal, and a way to record that. Okay, so we just break that down to those three components. So here we have our guitar amp. So in my case, it's the Kemper, right? And then we have an interface to take that signal from the guitar and turn it into a signal that the computer can use, which we have a USB interface built into this mixing board, right? That we plug into the computer. And then we have a recording interface on our computer that we record it with. And we just have headphones or whatever to listen to it. That's it. Super, super simple. Now, why do we have all these knobs in front of us? So for those of us that have never recorded before, I'll tell you what. Let me just grab my GoPro here, and we'll just give you a little kind of a rundown of what we're looking at when we look at a big mixing board like this, because it's not actually that complicated. All right, so this is the PreSonus AR12, and you see all these knobs and all these sliders. And for those of us that are new to this sort of thing, this might look a little overwhelming. But basically what we have is up here, you can plug stuff in. So you can plug a microphone, you can plug an instrument or a line in. So let's say you could plug in, on each one of these, you could plug in one thing. So you can plug in a microphone or a guitar or a keyboard. In my case over here, I have the left and the right channels coming from my Kemper. That is my guitar amp. This is one channel strip, and it has a way to plug something in, our sound source, whether that be our voice or our guitar amp or our keyboard or whatever. It has the input gain, which this adjusts the level of whatever it is coming in. So sometimes something can be kind of weak or kind of strong, and we can adjust that here. These knobs, they look all complicated, but basically all of this right here is literally just your graphic equalizer. So this is like your treble, your mid-range, and your bass. And actually this is a way to adjust what frequency you adjust, if that makes sense. These three we won't get into. This is for some other features, like when you're playing with a live band, like you can do aux sends and you can do monitors and all this kind of stuff. So that's what these are for. This right here pans left to right for stereo. We have a mute button, and then we have the volume up. That this is how hot it is when you record it. And then that is just repeated all the way across here, right? And then we have one special channel on this particular board for like Bluetoothing a telephone in or something like that, or an iPod or whatever. And then this board actually has a recorder. So we talked about those three pieces, right? We talked about the amp, we talked about the interface, and the way to record. This board actually has an interface built, or a recorder built in. So we can put an SD card in here and hit record and then just start recording. So with this situation, it's actually kind of fun. Remember we talked about basically having an idea and here, let me shut this camera off. Remember we talked about having an idea and then just running in the studio and hitting a button? That's what this is for. So the real life of this literally is you have an amplifier that's plugged into something like this. You come in and you flip on the amp, you flip that thing on, you bring up your volume for that particular channel, and you hit record. And you're going. I mean, you're literally going in 3 minutes. I mean, 2 minutes. It's super, super, super easy. And that is the general idea of what we want to do. Now, there's way simpler ways to do this. And so over the next few weeks, we're going to talk about some simpler ideas. Let me show you in the computer what I use. So this particular mixing board, and this is going to change over the next couple of weeks because we'll talk about that in a minute. But I use this software right here called Capture. And what this does, this actually comes with this mixing board for free. And basically what we have here is we have all the channels from the mixing board are here. And right now, so I'll turn all those off and we can record whatever channels we want. Now, if I want, I can click on 910. We can bring it up on our mixing board over here and I can play music. And that's where my signal comes from my Kemper. I can save it to a file and I can listen to it. It literally takes 5 minutes. So as complicated as all of this looks, it's actually very simple. You could have something like a Boss Katana, for example, that has a line out, or a lot of newer amps have line outs to them, and you could use them to record. And you could say, well, yeah, but it's not Super Tube, blah, 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 blah. You know, maybe you have your vintage Marshall whatever or your vintage Fender whatever to play live on the weekends, but maybe you do have a $200 Boss Katana that is just for this purpose of just saying, you know what, I want to just get this down. I just want to record this super, super quick. Now, of course, the more money you spend, you can actually get your final result with your interface like what I have here, but there's a lot simpler ways to do this. One of the things that I'm kind of running into, I don't want to say the problem, but one of the things I'm running into with this setup, it's big, it's physically large, right? So we have this huge PC over here. I use it for video editing. That's the main purpose. Oh, so that's the other thing. Before we kind of move on, you don't need all this fancy stuff, okay? A regular basic laptop that you buy at Best Buy will run most digital audio workstations, the computer that you use to record this stuff, that come with, you know, these things when you buy them. Unless you get into like ridiculous, you know, 30 channels of stuff with big drum kits and tons of microphones and professional setups, stuff like that, then you might need a more powerful computer. But to just record in your office, to get some ideas down, a normal basic computer that you just buy at Best Buy for $500 or whatever, it will work in most cases. Just look on the back of the software and it'll tell you the minimum software requirements, and that will work. The only reason I have this big gnarly computer is because I actually use it for video editing, and that is where we really get into superpower of gnarly stuff. And if you want to know more about computers for audio and video purposes specifically, I just studied my brains out for the last like 4 months while I built this computer to make sure that I got the right stuff, and I could make a video on that too. Let me know if you want that. But what we're going to do is next week, so you're seeing this video on Tuesday, so the normal Tuesday video, right? Our Guitar Tech Tuesday. By this time, this unit right here will be sold to a friend of mine, and I will have on order, maybe not received yet, but on order, a new device that is this big and a lot more simple and a lot closer to what many of you will use in your office, in your bedroom, in your living room to record. And we will do some more simplified, and then we will actually get together and I will show you. We'll actually demo it. We'll actually do it. We'll get the guitar, we'll plug everything in, we'll record, we'll stuff like that. I didn't want to do that this week because this is not typical for most people to do in their, their living room or whatever. What I'm buying is more typical. It's not the, I'll show you which one you should get. In fact, I'll link it in the description. I would get, if it was me, I'd get a Focusrite 2i2 second generation if I was you, because it's very simple. It's easy. You just plug a thing into it and you just go. I've had one before. I sold it. The one I'm going to get to replace all of this is a little bit more complicated than that because there's some special features. It's called SPDIF that I want for my Kemper. So I'm buying a little bit kind of higher a model up. I'll put a link to that in the description of this video below too. But that is what we're going to talk about next week, simplifying all of this down. I'll tell you what, before I let you go, let's go over some viewer comments and from the last couple videos and see what kind of trouble we can get into. All right, viewer comments. I just grabbed the GoPro, chucked it on the desk. Update, that mixer is gone. In fact, the GoPro is sitting right there where it was. Got a new thing coming hopefully on Thursday this week, so maybe by next week we'll have a video about it. Pretty awesome. So let's talk about some video stuff or some comment stuff. That live video that we did about trademark protection and Gibson, in that video that they had, oh my goodness, they took it down. What a bad look. I mean, if you're trying to look good in the eyes of customers that you're trying to win back, that was not a good look. Leslie and I were talking about it and wondering if that was Mark Agnesi's idea and if he got slapped on the wrist or something for that. Like if anybody in charge knew that he made that video. I was kind of curious. That's an interesting one, man. Whew, I would not have done that. Anyway, they took the video down. I'm curious to see. So one comment that we have from that, there was tons of comments. Thank you so much for the conversation, and everybody was pretty much civil about it. I really do appreciate that. Skyview Design says, standing behind your trademarks is absolutely crucial. People started finding Gibson ridiculous in this, though, when they started going after things that weren't really a direct resemblance of their trademarks. It was simply petty. Granted, that was under previous management, so perhaps these feudal petty suits will cease and they will just protect their actual trademarks. Time will tell. So that's the thing. They do own some trademarks and they do deserve to defend them, absolutely. But how crazy are they going to go, and how much are they going to alienate themselves from their potential audience? Very, very interesting, and I think we will have to, like Skyview there says, we're going to have to pay attention and just kind of see how this goes over the next year or so. It's going to be interesting. 2000 Skyview, we have some similar names today. Says, is that a guitar pick kitchen table? Yeah, so in a lot of my videos, my kitchen table is a guitar pick shaped table. I did not do this on purpose. It's just a 3-sided table. I didn't do it on purpose. In fact, I didn't even notice it until I had a contractor at the house doing some work one day, some floors for me. And he's like, hey, you're a guitar guy. I see you on YouTube all the time. I'm like, yeah. He's like, that must be why you have a dining room table that looks like a guitar pick. I never even thought of it until that point. Kind of funny. Arvon Gaunt says, love the channel. Random question. Indian Laurel versus Rosewood. Is there much difference? Got my fingers crossed for a no. If you're talking about for a fretboard, it's not going to make much difference at all. You can fight me in the comments if you want, or we can have this conversation, but man, there are definitely other things that make way more difference to the tone of a guitar than what the fretboard is made of. Just period. Value of Nothing says, why does my Epiphone SG400, not the Pro, so just the entry-level one, seem to lack sustain? Is it the cheap bridge, the flat, narrow shape of the body, the glue-in neck, the break angle of the strings, or am I imagining things? My Strat copy, my Ibanez, blah, 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 all seem to sustain better. So I would say, number one, do a setup on that guitar. Number one, take it somewhere. If you're not familiar, you can look at some of our videos and try to do your own setup. But if you're not comfortable with that, or you've been fighting with it for a while, take it somewhere and have a really good setup done on it. If you don't feel like you're still getting what you want out of that guitar, the biggest weakness on those is honestly the pickups. And the pots. They are not amazing. But before you spend money on parts, make sure you check out the setup. That's what I'm going to say about that. And then, if you get that far and you want to put some more pickups in that thing and we can get you going, let me know and I'll help you out with that. I think we've got some pickups that would work really well in that guitar for you, for 100% for sure. Cool. Thanks a lot, guys. This was a fun video, and I'm stoked to do more of this stuff. I've got some new gear coming tomorrow, like I said, Thursday. And wait till you see next week's video too. It's a little bit kind of on the same line. Let's start creating some stuff. Super fun. Thanks, man. We'll talk to y'all soon.